Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olsen.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. I'm Joel Sturgis, your host. Along with me, as always,
Eric Olsen.
Hey, Eric, did you catch, gonna jump right into it, did you catch the debates last night?
You know what? I was coming and going because I had to take care of a bunch of things, and I always know that I can basically get way more than the gist of it after the fact. My daughter, boy, Lily, is just turning out to be really quite the little political scientist, you know, because it is not the cool thing. She said, you know, the kids don't really talk about it all that
Not
much.
really, no.
When they do, it's just all kind of cliched stuff.
Exactly. They're hearing from the parents.
She sat there and watched the whole thing, and she had lots of interesting things to say about it. But anyway, I'm pretty well boned up on it. I saw the highlights. I saw the back and forth, and boy, it sure looks like good old Carly Fiorina.
I know, right? Didn't she really? Well, anyhow, what I was watching for is because all week, and I know we're not a political show, but man, lately politics has been front and center. But the thing of it is all week I've been hearing about, up until the debates, Trump. And I watched him closely during the debates. He was great, or at least forceful, when it came to economics. He didn't know what to say when it came to national security. He had no idea what to say when it came to domestic issues. He had no idea what to say when it came to dealing with world leaders. So it leads me to believe that if Trump was elected, this is just me speaking, obviously this is my own opinion, I'm not sure he'd be the guy, man. Do you really want him having the nuke codes when he doesn't know anything?
Yeah, it really does. It just, you know, it reinforces what was the kind of initial, most people anyway, you know, the initial impulse, initial reaction to him. And it's, all right, yes, you know, he's this huge, very large, and in some ways charismatic personality, very, very media savvy.
Yes.
He's had a very successful media career, and obviously he's an extremely successful businessman, though never as successful as he paints himself.
No, he wants to make it sound like he's like Walt Disney or something.
But the bottom line is, you know, it's about his ego.
Oh, it's huge.
It has been about his ego. It is not about service. It is not about what can he do for this country. It's about his ego. No. And think about it. The areas that you're going to really concentrate on are the areas that make you feel that much more important. Mm-hmm. The guy just doesn't want to be bothered with the details.
No.
You know, there is something to be said against micromanagement. Like they say, poor Jimmy Carter was just an absolute maniacal micromanager. Sure. And that ultimately kind of did him in, you know. Reagan was the opposite. He did not get all that involved in details. He was a big picture kind of guy. He was a leader. But even he, you know, had to learn the nuts and bolts. And at least he had some obviously, political background. He'd been the freaking governor of California.
Well, that's
that
just
counts
it.
for something, you know?
One of the key debate pieces was, of course, lately Planned Parenthood, which I'm not going to touch that with a 20-foot pole,
Yeah,
but you know, defunding them or whatever. But he had no opinion on such an important thing because let's just be honest, more than half Americans are women. All right, so that's a big deal. Women's health is huge. I know that, you know that. I have 3 sisters and a mother. Okay, so women's health in my world is huge. You have a mom that's currently doing better. By the way, I just want to get that out there, doing much, much better. But her health means the world to you. So, I mean, us being guys, you know, we don't look at it that way. But when you have women in your life, like we all do, women's health is very important in this country to everybody involved because everyone has a mother, everyone has an aunt, everyone has a sister. The deal is if you don't know enough to be at least learned enough to shut your mouth, how can you even aspire to be the president when you can't even take this very fundamental and very important issue by the horns?
It shows, you know what it also does? It shows a certain amount of contempt to think that he can just jump into it. It's like, why not, man? What else? What do I have to lose?
Well, it's like a game. It's like, oh yeah, I'll do this.
Exactly a game.
You know, I'll do this.
You're absolutely right. It is a game. It is a little personal thing. Hey, I don't really care about all this, other than hey, it sure boosts my ego.
Yeah, look at that.
Where I go. This is cool. This is fun. How many people can I fool for how long?
Well, exactly.
And boost my ego that much more. Yeah, I mean, the cracks are showing. You know, Carly got him. Her response to his patronizing crap about, oh, your face. Yeah, you have a beautiful face. You're a beautiful woman. And man, she wasn't taking any of that crap at all. It was, I think we all know what you were saying, Mr. Trump.
Yes.
I got the biggest applause of the evening. She was very formidable. You know, I'm not a Republican. Also, I'm not a Democrat. I mean, I'm an independent. I'm in the middle overall.
As am I.
I'm liberal. Some ways I'm relatively conservative. You know, there's going to be an awful lot of things, most things probably, I am not agreeing with the consensus of the Republican candidates on, but I can still, you know, view them as candidates apart from even necessarily my agreement on this or that policy. And it's just, I just don't see it possible that Trump will last.
No. And I also heard a rumor on the old water cooler that he will be asking, I heard this from a pretty good source, he will be asking Sarah Palin, of all people, should he make it that far, to be his running mate.
Madness. What? Because she's
a
another
woman.
Reality TV star?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he's after the woman vote, if he's after the reality TV star vote. I'm not quite sure, but that's the rumor I heard. Whether it's true or not, I have no way to verify. But
another
man,
egomaniac.
Nothing would surprise me at this point. And another egomaniac taking the reins. Did you hear that? Arnold Schwarzenegger is taking the reins of the Apprentice program.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I that might be, you know, I don't, I admire Arnold for his accomplishments in this world. I mean, my goodness, to have somehow finagled, once again, we're talking about actors and governors, right?
Sure.
Reagan,
yeah, exactly.
And they had Arnold, and he wasn't a bad governor, I guess.
No.
I didn't live in California when he was governor, but I mean, no one saying he was particularly bad.
I mean,
I'm sure,
the state's still on the map, so that's got to say something.
It hasn't fallen into the ocean, and, you know, he just jumped right back into a successful, once again, acting career. I mean, the guy is, you got to give him credit. You know, he's admirable, whatever his failings, and he's another guy who clearly has lots of problems with women.
Oh, my gosh. And housekeepers.
He has had his women problems, that's for sure. You know, I don't think it's reasonable or fair to go through life with what amounts to contempt for women.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's a cliche, but you cannot treat them as sex objects.
No.
They're human beings.
Exactly. And that's where a Donald Trump or Arnold Schwarzenegger in their lives, I mean, God bless Arnold. I mean, come on, he came from Austria, had nothing, and he made himself into something. Donald Trump actually inherited $200 million to start his business, so it wasn't like he's a self-made man. He inherited.
No, not at all.
He inherited his money. So first, because he did try to say at one point, "I'm a self-made man." Not so long, Mr. Donald.
Jeremy.
Yes, you're not.
Jeremy. I mean, I will be happy to give Trump credit for the things he's good at. I mean, he's at least a reasonably good businessman. Clearly, he is audacious. Clearly, he took his inheritance and he has built it. Give him credit.
But at
for
least
that.
be honest. At least be honest.
Be honest, right?
You know,
his father was a real estate magnate. What he did, what Donald did, different from his father. His father stayed out of Manhattan, and Donald very audaciously went into full bore into the Manhattan real estate market, and you got to give him credit. He was successful. So
he's a jerk.
And he's an excellent, TV reality TV guy. He comes across. He's audacious. He gets credit for what he is.
I've been finding him nauseating as of late, though.
He is.
I've had enough.
Serious enough. You
No.
have to have a certain level of seriousness to be the president of the United States.
Exactly.
He does not have that.
Now, I found Jeb Bush to be presidential. I thought I found most of them. Marco Rubio was very presidential in his delivery. I found them all to be, aside from a couple, to be very presidential in their presentations. Now, whether they're qualified or even have the ability to be president, I don't know, because anyone can talk the talk. You got to walk the walk at some point.
They're every one of them, other than Carson and Fiorina. They're all either senators or governors, or former. So that's not nothing, right?
No, that's.
And they always say the most analogous job to the president is a governor. So it's ironic that there aren't that many governors that end up getting elected.
So true. Very, very true. I mean, Clinton was a governor.
Clinton, yes.
Bush Bush Jr. was a governor of Texas.
Right. Jeb was governor.
Yeah, exactly. Jeb, Florida. So yes, you're absolutely correct. It does seem that way. The governorship pretty much leads to the White House.
Well, it's at least a very reasonable
stepping stone.
Exactly. You're going to face not all, but most of the same things on a reduced scale, obviously. But, to be an executive, you're an executive of the state versus the executive of the country. I mean, the main difference, of course, would be foreign policy, and you're not basically having to deal with much of that, if at all, as a governor. But, I mean, at least you have to have demonstrated competence at running a large and complicated organization, which is a state. So that is, you at least know a little bit something about that kind of a person. Senator, it's a little more iffy. Yes, they're national. Yes, they're having to deal with, in theory, the various elements of government. And depending where you specialize, of course, many senators end up being very expert at foreign policy. But anyway, I mean, it's amazing to me there are so many who are still in the running. Only 2 thus far have dropped out with that huge, what are we down to, maybe 15? And that's an enormous number of candidates. It's amazing to me that there are still that many this far into the process, because now we're all of a sudden bumping up. It's not a whole lot more than a year away from the election. And I agree. It's an interesting time. We haven't even really gotten started yet on the...
No, we haven't. And the liberals or Democrats haven't even had their bite at the apple yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They basically haven't even started.
No,
the assumption all along has been that it'll be Hillary, but no, she may self-destruct.
Oh boy, in a big way, hasn't she? With those emails, has really shot herself in the political foot, though. It will be tough.
I don't know if she's finally gotten around it and got it behind her by finally saying, yes, I apologize. I screwed up. That was a bad decision. I think that was the best thing she could have done. She should have done it when it first came out.
Exactly.
Long ago.
Owned it.
Now she's finally done it.
Yeah, owned it. Don't lie about it. Own it. And be done with it. And move on.
She's finally done that. As soon as you do that, you see, it takes the sting out of it. Because what's left to say? That was bad. Yes, it was. I've already said that. Thank you.
Yep. Well, we'll have to see how everything shakes out as we move closer to the date in November. But did you see earlier in the week that Facebook, of all things, is going to add finally a dislike button?
Yeah, I don't even know what the point of that is. When you've had... didn't they have something relatively early on that was a negative?
I thought so. I thought they did.
And I thought they took it away because it doesn't accomplish anything positive. I mean,
I don't understand. I mean, obviously there's some things that people announce that, you don't want to hit the like button on, like, oh, my dog got hit by a car today. You don't really want to hit the like button on that. I mean...
Well, in that case, at least the way I envision it, maybe I'm wrong. I see if you were to hit a like button on something like that, you are expressing sympathy. You're not saying, I'm happy that you're talking
well, that's every time I hit the like button for, like, he fought a very, very courageous battle, but at the end, Buck the dog succumbed to his wounds.
Like!
I know, and then I hit the like, and I feel horrible. I'm like, oh, my God, am I saying I like that Buck is dead, or am I...
Which, again, could be wrong, is that if you like something like that type of situation, or just illness, so you're talking about someone's illness, or, hey, my mother had a stroke, whatever. I would never interpret someone hitting like on that as approving of her stroke. Sympathy. I would interpret it as...
I understand what you're saying. I do, but man, I feel like such a bastard when I hit the like button sometimes.
So are they saying... I mean, I saw it, but I didn't really read up on it. Are they saying that the dislike button will be to do the way you were talking about?
It's me a thumbs down, like
that's disapproval.
Disapproval, or I mean, like if somebody is sick, you can hit the thumbs down, like, oh man, that bites. I'm not sure in the grand scheme of things how it's going to work.
There,
But how did Facebook become its own country that we're debating this on national radio? I don't understand.
Facebook has just always seemed so alien to me. I finally had to kind of give up fighting it and go, look, if I'm marketing my brand, if I'm marketing America's Most Haunted, I obviously cannot ignore Facebook. And I get on the personal side, so I have the America's Most Haunted account, and we've had good success with it. We're up to 24,000 likes, although I still haven't figured out why all of a sudden I'll get 1,000 likes in 2 days.
I don't understand that either.
Off to 20 a week.
Yeah,
where did that come from? Even?
Yeah, I don't even understand how Facebook really works. To be honest, the nuts and bolts.
I mean, I'm doing it. I put content on there. I realize it's important to interact. That it's a platform for interacting with people. I agree with that. That makes sense.
But sure is a wine fest, though. Have you ever read Facebook people's posts?
Lot of complaints.
Oh, my God.
I have to be honest. I don't spend all that much time on my own.
But if you do,
Facebook page.
You're going to want
to... I do on the America's Most Haunted, but not on the Eric Olsen.
If you do, you're going to need to load up like on maybe some Valium or something. Because if you read all the negativity you got flowing on a daily basis, that's anyone's page, it's enough to even make Gandhi cry. Oh,
yeah.
My God.
I leave we have a division of labor within the family. My wife really seems to enjoy getting on Facebook and interacting and reading what everyone's doing and replying and all that. It's not that I'm uninterested in what people are doing. Part of it is my account, I don't really know a lot of the people. You know what I mean? I've interacted with them through business one way or another. They were writers on Blog Critics way back to there, or I met them through Technorati or this or that. sure, the people I know through school, my high school people who I interact with, my college people, that's fine. I'm happy to hear what they're doing. It's fun. It's a cool thing to a certain extent, but I'll tell you, people's lives can end up getting absolutely
Oh my God, yes,
destroyed.
destroyed.
They just don't do anything else.
No,
Here, you and I, we complain so much about the kids. Kids are not on Facebook, at least anymore.
no.
They're doing other platforms. They do other things. But I mean, there are plenty of adults who just waste countless
Oh my God.
time on Facebook.
Oh, I try to keep a presence up, here and there. Maybe post once a day just to keep the After Hours AM presence out there. Hey, we got the show coming up or whatever. But my God, if you sit there too long, it will suck you into a vortex of negativity like you have never experienced in your life, my friend.
And simply the time factor. There's
Yes.
only so many hours in the day.
Well, that's just it. So I'm not sure whether Facebook's on the way out, and that's why they're doing this, because maybe interest is waning. There are competitors out there that are coming up. I mean, everybody thought LinkedIn was going to be a competitor. Well, that turned out not to work out so well.
Well, it's a different thing. I mean, LinkedIn is considered a success, but it's very specifically professional. That is your business life, your career, your profession. That's what you deal with directly via LinkedIn. I'm sure people use it in other ways and get a little more into the personal.
Exactly.
But my LinkedIn's fine. I mean, I use it sometimes, and I think I have more friends or whatever you call them, followers. I forget what they are on LinkedIn. I have more on LinkedIn than I do on Facebook as far as my personal page.
Oh, sure.
Because I've dealt with so many people through, various, publishing the various websites and just being out there in the internet world. And then of course you do want to bring in people from the real world, and that, school people get in
the ever
there.
dreaded real world. But speaking of the real world, get away from social media here for a minute, because we're running short on time. And I also want to throw in there, I don't just want to throw this in there willy-nilly, we do have a really good guest on tonight for everyone that's listening. We have Brad Olsen coming on the show. Now, Brad, boy, he is really a renaissance man, isn't he, Eric? And no relation to you, right?
No, but an excellent last name.
Well, I would have to say, I mean, listen, it's the Olsen. I have the Olsen twins on. I didn't even know I was going to.
Who knows? Maybe we are related.
You just never know. He is the author of Future Esoteric. You're going to want to hang around because we touch on things like the Illuminati. We touch on all these things like UFOs, conspiracies. It is really he's everywhere, and I like that in an author. I like that in an author that can tackle multiple subjects.
What I'll be interested, one of the things I'll be interested to hear is, like some of our other very broad, eclectic guests, let's see, do all of these disparate elements of the paranormal or of alternative histories and whatnot, do they all tie together in for him, in his worldview, or are these separate?
Exactly. That will be really interesting. So everyone's going to stick around for it'll be the top of next hour. We'll be having Brad on. Brad Olsen. You're going to want to definitely tune in for that. But quick question for you. What do you think about the Kim Davis thing going on? She refused to give marriage licenses to homosexuals. My God, this story has really overstayed its welcome.
She's had way more than her 15 minutes. Look, just assuming that she is sincere and this isn't some freakish, bizarre ego thing. I mean, I have no reason to think.
Have you seen the looks of this lady? You ever see Goonies? Remember Sloth? Baby Ruth? Come on.
But we don't want to take the Donald Trump route regarding her.
Well, she's been married 4 times. She doesn't have any room to yell about people's marriages.
No, I mean, and how typical, frankly, that is. But, I mean, the bottom line is she has a job. She works for the government. She has a very specific set of requirements of her job. So if she's going to keep her job, then I guess she needs to perform them.
Just do your flipping job.
They have arrived at a pretty reasonable compromise where she doesn't have to physically herself do the the licenses she does not believe in, and she has underlings who are willing to do so. So as long as that everyone is satisfied with that arrangement, I guess it's okay.
But here's the deal. I bet you there's vegans working at McDonald's, for crying out loud. And they still give you your Big Mac.
I mean, her job is her job.
You just do your job.
And it's not even a regular job. It's not a private sector job. This is a public sector job.
Exactly.
You are serving the people. You work for the people. And that is a very different set of responsibilities than if you work in the private sector.
And
No told her she had to work for the government.
Exactly. So you don't like it, you quit. That's where you should be at then, lady.
I think so. I agree with you.
Why destroy everyone else's lives just because you want to be the thumper up there, the Bible thumper?
And look, frankly, Kim Davis, this is not about you.
No, it's not.
So stop making it about you.
Exactly. 110%. One more little piece of business, and this just came over the wire to me from a very good source over TLC. Do you know the polygamous people that wife show, what is it called, Sister Wives?
Yes.
Evidently, they're
aware of it.
They're gonna make a run to get polygamy recognized federally.
Well, they're going to fail.
Well, see, now this is their argument. The new argument is gay marriage changed one man, one woman platform of the government. Changed the definition of marriage.
Yes.
That is their argument. Wait a second here. We just changed the definition of marriage. So
we did.
Why can
However,
yes,
we did not change the couple aspect. We did not change the fact that it is two people. So that argument.
But that is the argument that they want to come to Supreme Court with.
I think it fails.
I do believe to that too. But do you really need four wives telling you to take out the garbage?
Oh, can you imagine?
I mean, or four wives of the honey-do list. I'm sorry, I'm good with the one. All right.
Oh my God, yes, it's enough pressure as it is. Keeping one freaking woman happy. Oh my Lord.
It's enough to give a man an aneurysm.
It surely is, and I thought I had one last week. Fortunately, it was not. I mean, I think about this all the time. I mean, I got divorced. I'm not perfect. I did not succeed. I was very young. I was very immature. I was a bonehead. Both my first wife and I were the oldest kids. We were actually the oldest of that generation, within those families. And we were very immature. We were very spoiled. We were brats, let's face it. And we did not deal with each other very well. We did not really bring out the best in each other.
Yeah.
And, I mean, so it didn't last. And I feel bad and always will. But I think I learned my lesson.
I'm there too, man. I was married once before as well. I was very young, very dumb. Learned my lesson. Have a beautiful son out of the deal. Don't get me wrong. But you learn as you grow. Yeah, I mean, and so none of us are perfect, and I think it's wrong for people like this Kim Davis or even the other people that want to have change marriage so drastically that's a former shell of itself. I support gay marriage. If that's what our government and everybody else wants, gosh darn it, this is a democracy. It should be there. But I don't see people rallying for polygamy. I'm sorry. I agree with you. It's going to fail.
It's ridiculous because, look, apart from us more or less kidding around about, how difficult it may be just to keep one wife happy, the bottom line is polygamy is an inherently exploitative relationship.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
It is built in. There's no way around it. It is exploitative, period.
Yes.
And I don't care how you couch it. It is treating women as sexual objects. It is not a one-on-one relationship. It is not fair. It is not equal.
Well, they say, now just to be fair, I'm reading this little blurb email I got from the insider, my insider in television, that the argument is women are equal in this. They could also have multiple husbands.
Well,
That will.
I hadn't heard that, but
It's gonna fail. It's gonna fail.
does
Well,
that
it has
make
to.
it any better, really?
It has to. They have to be able to because there's equal protection under the law. You just can't make polygamy legal and not make it fair for both sexes.
and not make polyandry as well.
It's crazy, man. I, for one, hope they never succeed in this. That's just me.
Well,
that's
I
my
can't
2
imagine
cents.
that they will, because again, it is inherently undemocratic, is inherently unequal, and it is inherently exploitative.
Yep, exactly.
So there.
That's it in a nutshell, guys. We got to run off the break. We'll be right back right after this with your America's Most Haunted headlines. Don't go anywhere. Be right back right after this.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzzed driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
She's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
What do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torrent Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. And got the remote.
Great. Now grab that Torrent Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Hello, this is Joel Sturgis, one of your hosts of After Hours AM, and I'm here to tell you all about Planet Paranormal. Planet Paranormal is the place you can hear every single After Hours AM podcast right from the very, very beginning. So tune in over at www.planetparanormal.com. That's right, planetparanormal.com. You'll be extremely glad you did.
She is seductive. She is passionate. She is possessive. She is pure evil. She is Christine, a 1958 Plymouth Fury, possessed by hell. Her previous owner is not alive to warn her present one. Once she lures you behind the wheel, you will be hers, body and soul. There is no place you can hide, no place you can run, and nothing you can do can stop her. Because how do you kill something that can't possibly be alive? Christine. Body by Plymouth. Soul by Satan.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. The show that makes you question yourself once in a while. Well, it makes us question ourselves. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Along with me, of course, is Mr. Eric Olsen, America's most haunted Eric Olsen. Not to be confused with Brad Olsen, our guest tonight, but Brad Olsen tonight is who we have, and he is a great author. You're going to want to stick around to hear what he has to say about all things secret in the government, too. I mean, he covers everything, like we said.
Future esoteric.
That's right. You're going to want to stick around and hear that interview. I think you guys will be, start questioning a few things of your own. Hey, man. Well, anyhow, getting right to it. America's Most Haunted is where you want to be at over there. Twitter. You want to go to Twitter, AM Haunted. Check it out.
Open up that computer.
That's
Get
right.
on it, or use your dumb phone.
Yes, just kind of hang out with us for a minute.
AM Haunted. We will be whipping through. I'll tell you, the top story happened so recently, or I saw it so recently, I haven't even been able to tweet it yet. Have you heard about this? And of course it had to be Florida. Have you heard about this Florida woman whose house is decorated perpetually for Halloween?
Say what? What you talking about, Willis?
But she has 3,714 knives, swords.
Oh my God, I was
axes
reading about that.
in her house.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the picture right now. It is inconceivable. There's no room. They're all hanging on the walls.
I was reading about that earlier.
3,700 knives.
What the hell do you need with that many knives?
I don't know. How could you use them? If you used one a day.
What the hell?
I mean, it would take, 10 years?
3,700. This person is not mentally stable. I'm guessing this.
Well, she was arrested because she was stabbing the neighbor's house.
They wake up one morning, come out.
Did I?
What's going on over there?
Kill the neighbor's house.
Stabbing your house. So take that.
Yeah, the woman was somewhat alarmed, the neighbor, to find
I would be a little strange.
Faye Dykema, or whatever, however you pronounce her name, Dykema, 47, and not looking super great.
No, she's got the shaved head going. She's got the Sinead O'Connor going for herself.
And her mouth is all twisted. She looks very sad, shall we say.
Yeah, well, I'd be coming out saying, what do you have against vinyl siding?
And she was on probation.
Oh, of course.
So, yeah, what a...
That's a winner. Hey, anyone that's single out there, I'm sure she would be the catch of the day.
I love this quote from... I'm looking at the CNN version of the story. I'm sure it's everywhere. But the police are discussing the arrest and the details, and it says, the taser had the desired effect.
The taser worked the first time.
And Dykema fell to the ground. Yes.
I would imagine she did.
Yes.
3,700 knives.
That's a lot of money, man. Think about it.
And she doesn't look like an independently wealthy person just by outside looks.
I wonder if she stole them.
She might have. She might have gone down to old Walmart. And because, you can get those sets of knives, 12 at a crack, those little paring knives for pretty cheap.
I suppose, yes.
But that's kind of...
I mean, but she had swords and machetes.
I saw that. I'm looking at the contents. She had like a bunch of katana swords, which is like what the ninja would use, or samurai, rather. She even had some axes. I mean, she had every kind of blade you could ever think of.
Apparently, she works for her knife collection.
Well, she has a sign now that says, "Will work for blades."
Oh man. So that's the top story as far as I'm concerned, but there are many more. This is actually a relatively slow day, but if we broaden out a bit, which I always do, into what the cool space news.
I want to know what the cool
kids are talking about. Have you seen these latest pictures from Pluto? I mean, they had no idea what the surface of Pluto was like. And now, with these super sharp images coming back, they're taking this long to come back because it's so far away.
Yeah.
And the latest picture, I mean, it looks like the Earth.
It really does. I'm looking here
There's
with
weather patterns. There's all kinds of topographical features on the surface of the planet. I bet they're going to feel really bad demoting Pluto.
I bet they are, because he became a dwarf planet. But is there water?
They probably.
Because with a weather pattern like that, you'd think it would almost take water.
I believe they're saying that the clouds are methane, but nonetheless, they do think it is certainly possible. Speaking of water, though, I'm glad you brought that up. The exact same day, just a few tweets down, the Cassini spacecraft, that's the one that's been cruising around Saturn and Saturn's moons. And this one that they have thought, this moon that they thought was very promising, Enceladus, is now, they've confirmed, it has an ocean, a water ocean.
Interesting.
Beneath the icy crust that covers the entire planet.
Wow.
It is a global ocean.
I got to ask you, Eric, do you believe in space aliens in our own universe? Or in our own solar system, rather?
Not that we would... Not intelligent.
You're not a believer in Planet X?
It's possible that there are microbes. I mean, the fact that they just keep finding all this water everywhere, you know? I mean, the presence of water is the number one key indicator. And it's turning out water is everywhere. And even these extremely frozen worlds like Saturn, you know, because it's quite far from the sun, when they have the geological activity within these planets or dwarf planets or these bodies, that generates enough heat that it melts.
Well, I gotta ask you, why are they looking so hard? Are we looking to move? I mean, is that the? I mean, come on, guys.
It's a fascinating area of exploration. Humans. I mean, ultimately, it just comes down to we are traveling. We're a traveling species. We are an adventuresome species. We're an outward-looking species.
This is what I think that we should do, to be honest with you. Eric, and I don't want to take up too much time from the headlines, but I think we should find one of these planets and send people like the Blade Lady there to cultivate the planet.
Exactly.
Make it livable.
To stab it a few times. To
send all of our just rejects over there. You know, what are we really losing if they don't make it? Really, when you think about it. What are we losing?
You know what it is? It's the Australia mentality.
Exactly. Send Donald Trump out there. You know,
of course, prisoners, at least by white people, prisoners from the UK.
Exactly. And we can even send Donald Trump. He can go over there and say, yeah, I'm populating Mars now. Look at me. You know, I'm just saying. I mean, you know.
And make that frog face.
Exactly. Working us comb over, the whole bit.
I don't know who he thinks he's fooling, but we've already said enough about that. So, are you a game guy? Because
sometimes I am. Sometimes I am. More often than not.
Slightly too old, I guess.
I do own a PlayStation 4, and yes, I do play it from time to time.
Okay. Well, I found this. Apparently, there's a game, and this is a role-playing live action. What do they call them? LARPs.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Called Werewolf.
Okay.
Very popular.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So the nerds and dweebs who have nothing better to do on Halloween are playing Werewolf at Meeple's Games in Seattle.
It's gonna be an MMO, I'm sure of it. A massive multiplayer.
You think so?
I think it will be. That way everyone can get in on this.
As opposed to a LARP?
Well, a LARP is basically just a role-playing game, but a MMO is a massive multiplayer. So that means everybody, like for instance, World of Warcraft. That's a massive multiplayer.
Now, see, my brother-in-law, who is only slightly younger than I am, is very much a game guy.
Okay.
He plays World of Warcraft. He does all that stuff. He gets online and, communicates with people literally all over the world. He makes friends. He's made friends in Europe. So when they go over there to visit, just because they're
all through the game console, he's made
and then they get meet people in the real world. So I mean, I'm not putting it down, and I mean, I know there's people my age who do play, but I'm just at that cusp.
Well, they do say, Eric, it helps your hand-eye coordination. It wards off Alzheimer's. They do say that there are a lot of health benefits to video games.
I believe it. Anything that requires concentration and And eye-hand coordination can only be good.
Hey, as long as you
within reason, don't go crazy.
Well, exactly. Take your aspirin and play your video games, and you'll be perfect.
All right. So, are you a Vin Diesel fan?
Yes and no. It all depends on what role he's in. If he really mails it in or if he's any good. Generally, I have to err on the side of no. I'm not a Vin Diesel fan.
All right. Well, this new one that he's in, The Last Witch Hunter, looks pretty good. And he looks pretty energized. And there is a rockin' trailer. This is the full trailer now, finally, because the movie comes out in October. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a massive October for movies.
I've heard that, and I'm going to be in the theater a lot.
Wow. So this one, The Last Witch Hunter, it looks pretty good. It's fairly cliched as far as the plot. But as far as the look and the visuals and his level of energy, it looks pretty darn good. So check that out. Just want to click on it from our, once again, America's Most Haunted Twitter account. You can find most of these same posts on our America's Most Haunted Facebook if you prefer. And that is also /AM Haunted on Facebook. Most of the same stories. Not all, not 100% the same, but mostly the same. So yeah, I'm going to check that one out. I kind of like... I'm not so excited about the driving around fast.
Yeah.
That Vin
Fast
Diesel.
and the Furious Vin Diesel.
Yeah,
how about the Chronicles of Riddick Vin Diesel?
That's the one I like.
And
so
then,
this is more in line with that, I think.
I think his best performance ever was in Saving Private Ryan when he died. I'm just saying.
I forgot about that. Yes, he was around for a while before people knew who he was.
Yeah, he was a character actor forever. And then, he got sniped out on Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
And then he was in Pitch Black.
The first
or Pitch Dark, one of the two.
Riddicks,
Yeah,
right?
I forget if it was Pitch Dark or Pitch Black.
No, it was Pitch Black.
Okay,
yeah.
and then he had the Chronicles of Riddick, of course, and they had Fast and Furious, and then he had all these Furious movies. I think he's only like in 3 of them. I particularly do not find him to be a very good actor. I think that he's I think Arnold Schwarzenegger might even be a better drama actor than he is, and that's saying something.
They're very similar. Let's face it.
They are
in many ways. The terrain that they mine.
He's kind of a poor man's Arnold, really.
He is. He he wasn't the world champion bodybuilder, but he's a big guy, and similar appeal.
He has a huge nose. Have you ever seen any nose in this guy?
Yeah,
My God.
He's not a classically handsome.
I bet you could smell McDonald's from 10 miles away. Big Macs.
Right, so, check this out. Do you know what the fastest growing holiday is in terms of popularity?
Halloween.
Day of the Dead.
Oh, I was close.
We're very close.
But yes, Day of the Dead is now in Australia.
Many would conflate Halloween with Day of the Dead, but they are distinct and they are from different cultures, although they end up being relatively similar. But yeah, so Day of the Dead is just exploding literally all over the world. People find that combination of the color, the vitality, and the spirit, and the not fearing death. In fact, meeting it head on and celebrating. It's not a celebration of death. It's a celebration of the life.
Exactly. No, I like Day of the Dead. I wish America would embrace it.
Well, we have, and we are.
Well, it's Halloween. I mean, we have Halloween, but I mean the actual. Is there real Day of the Dead celebrations here in the States?
Oh, yes. Certainly anywhere that has any kind of Hispanic community. So the Southwest, all the big cities. But that's my point. It's not just growing in the U.S. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you look it up, just do a search.
Okay.
Do Day of the Dead or in Spanish, Dia de los Muertos, and you will find celebrations literally all over the United States.
You know, where I'm at, though, you would fit in with your last name, but that'd be about it. See, our big fin to claim up here in the Northwoods, because I am in a city of about 4,000 people, and I like it that way, just to be honest. Coming from the big hustle and bustle, thank God I live here. Just want to say that. But our lutefisk and something called pasties are the big thing up here. We haven't had Day of the Dead yet.
You don't have a large Hispanic population.
No, we do not. It's Finnish, and we have a lot of Norwegian, Swedish, and German. That's really what makes up our... But I would embrace it like everybody else, because I think it's cool. I think it's. I should.
It's very colorful and it's very pro-life. It's very life-affirming. It really is. So, anyway, here's how much it's growing. It has been growing very quickly over the last couple decades, and the last decade in particular, in the United States. But it has exploded literally around the globe, even places that have very small to non-existent Hispanic populations. You know where it's getting really big now? Australia.
Which is strange. You would not think it would gain traction there, but that's
great.
There are
not a lot of Mexicans in Australia, I assure you.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But they have significant Day of the Dead celebrations. It's also getting pretty big in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
There's several big events in London, of course, in particular, revolving around Day of the Dead, and there's not a lot of Mexicans in the UK either, I assure you. So I think it's really kind of the spirit of it that people are picking up on. And it's a common, sure, it ties into Halloween. There's no question about that. It's kind of in a sense, it's a complement to Halloween, and it's very similar time frame. They're within a couple days of each other.
Which came first, though?
Who say that it is not, that Day of the Dead is not fully appreciated, and that those who are not of Hispanic heritage don't really understand. But we always hear that about any time the culture of one group spreads. There are always those who say it's being bastardized or it's being patronized.
Exactly.
The rest of the world does not understand. All right, so you know what's happening this weekend?
What's going on, man?
This last week, I am a very recent, as in last season only, convert to Doctor Who. Season 9 launches this weekend.
I heard all the buzz about that. People are saying this is the best season yet, or gearing up to be the best season.
It may well be. Hey, what I did, BBC America was really smart, because, I literally had really never watched Doctor Who. It just sounded too dopey.
It sounds too British to me, with the whole...
And when I caught it a little bit here and there, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? This is nonsense. And yes, very British. So I just finally gave in and just watched an episode toward the beginning of the last season. Thought, it's kind of interesting. And then I watched a few more and I started understanding the world a little bit. But still, even by the end of last season, I only kind of knew what I'd picked up from one season. And you have all of this amazing history to it. There's been 12 Doctor Who's. That's pretty astonishing. And it goes back to the 60s. There was a big break in there, but it goes all the way back to the 60s. So what they did, and I think BBC America is aware of this issue and is aware that there's a lot of Americans who've only come into it relatively recently. So what they've been doing for the whole last couple, all through the summer, is they picked the best of Doctor Who over the last 10 years.
And that's the way to do it. Get everyone caught up all at one time.
They did. So I have now seen what they consider to be the best, whatever, 6, 7 episodes. And it really has given me a much better grounding and background. And I'm much better prepared heading into this new season. And I'm charged up about it. I like this guy. If for no other reason, he's my age. He's the oldest one ever, by far.
There you go. I mean, you have some type of, you can relate to him in some levels.
He has more hair than I do.
Well, I'm jealous of you because I have no hair, so don't even start talking to me about that, man.
All right.
Just
all right.
It's a sore subject.
I understand. Hey, a publication, new to me, I'm sure it's not new, website that I had not come across, very kind of high-end, very well-written. It's called Medium.com, and they have a fascinating story. I did not know anything about this, even though I'm from L.A. There is a mansion, quote-unquote mansion. It's not all that big, but remember how high the property values are in Los Angeles.
Oh, gosh, yes.
The murder house, and it's the Perelson was the doctor, killed his wife, tried to kill his daughters, failed, then killed himself. In 1959.
I was going to say, is this the house that's, not to cut you off, but is this the house that has been frozen in time since 1959?
This is the house.
Ooh, that's a freaky house, man.
And it is a fascinating story. So we got the link, of course, and great artwork on it, the way they did the background on the picture, on the photograph of the house. It's very spooky. I like it. But it's a great story. And there's a blogger, relatively young, he's about 30-ish, who has just become absolutely fascinated by this and has done all kinds of research into it and tried to figure out what's going on. And there's been, lots of reports of paranormal activity. But yeah, can you imagine a house frozen in time?
That would be
for
crazy.
56 years.
That's almost unthinkable, especially the location it's in.
Yeah, I mean, think of the value of the place.
I can imagine somewhere in Wisconsin, frozen in time, whatever, but not in L.A.
Right in Los Angeles.
Just because that city is constantly growing and changing. You would have thought that by now they probably would have done away with the house.
Yeah, it's in Los Feliz area.
Interesting.
And, we're talking big money. I'm sorry, I said it was a he as far as the blogger who's done all this research. It's a she.
It is a she.
She is a she, Jennifer.
A very beautiful
Sorry,
she.
Jennifer. Anyway, very well-written article, very interesting by Jeff Maish in this online publication called Medium, and it's all about the murder house. And, of course, some elements of this story, of that house's story, did influence the first season of American Horror Story, which was Murder House in Los Angeles.
That first season of American Horror Story was the best one, in my opinion.
Oh, it was, because it was truly horrifying.
It was
genuinely.
It was great,
frightening and disturbing.
And now all the rest of these seasons have fallen shy of how good that first one was.
I would have to agree with you.
And so
in terms of actual.
Yes, it was creepy. It was a creepy show, man.
Oh my God, it was disturbing. I just couldn't believe what they did at the end and just wiping out the whole frickin' family.
Yes. Yes, it was even a worse ending than The Sopranos.
Yeah.
I mean,
it really was disturbing. And then the second season, I mean, it was still frightening and disturbing. By the time you got to the Coven, it got pretty jokey. Last season was just kind of weird. I have hopes for Hotel because we're back to L.A. and we'll see.
Exactly. Hey, we got 4 minutes left before the top of the hour, which we're gonna have Brad Olsen come on. I want to say your name for some reason, Eric Olsen. I think it's the Olsen, but
be that Olsen.
It's got to be that Olsen thing, man. But I got to ask you. We do this every time. Fear the Walking Dead. What do you think of the story? How do you think it's progressing? And are you liking it better than The Walking Dead?
I like it a lot. I think every episode, there's only been 3, and there's only going to be 6 in this first season, but it's been renewed for next summer, and it's going to be twice as long. I think it's 12 episodes next season. But we're already halfway through, even though there's only been 3. I think it is very good. I like it a lot. I think each episode has been better than the one before. And this last one really, really had both my wife and I just on pins and needles. Our stomachs, by the end of the show, were like, oh my God, my stomach muscles are killing me. I've been clenching them the whole show.
It was good. I liked it. I think that the actors, a couple of them are really standouts. And I think after this is all done, they're going to have really good careers, the young ones rather, because the rest of the older cast are really well-known actors.
Yeah,
they've been around.
I mean, they're at least recognizable faces.
Exactly, and
I like that zombie Japanese woman.
I like that. The guy goes to hug her. Not to spoil it for anyone.
Stupid.
Yeah, not to spoil it, but spoiler alert.
Screaming at the television,
walks up.
Get back, you idiot!
Are you kidding me? Would you give your wife a hug if she's like vomiting blood and looks like she wants to eat
with
you?
Her arms out.
No, I'm sorry, lady. I ain't hugging you. All right? I'm running the other way, and I'm starting to think I want to reevaluate my whole situation with you.
Yeah, you got to question that. And how cool was that weird little, what was that, the little garden thing in the backyard?
I don't know. I've never seen anything like that.
I haven't either.
It was weird because, first they go in, there's no zombies. They come back out, there's zombies. I don't know.
I don't know if it's an Asian tradition kind of thing.
It has to be.
It was very interesting and strange.
I want to build one.
Visually, it was very compelling. It was just this tiny little maze that you had to go through to get from one yard to the other.
Yes, but I cannot wait for the Walking Dead comeback, to be honest with you.
Oh, and to answer your last question, do I like it better? I just think it's very different. It really is.
I think
and I think that is to Fear the Walking Dead credit, because it would have been awfully easy to make something pretty damn close.
Oh, yeah, they could have made the same thing, just different actors. Just a different location with different actors.
Location, right.
Exactly.
It's a very different show.
Hats off to them. That's hard to do today. It's hard to buck what really works. I mean, because it's that whole what-if factor, and I think it paid off for him. I really do, and I'm really enjoying watching it. I think it's been needed, something different. Obviously, this genre of zombies is not going away anytime soon, and thank God that they brought a breath of fresh air to the story.
It's very interesting, if not fascinating, to see the beginning of all this, and to have the emphasis be not so much on the zombies. Although, frankly, it isn't so much on the zombies in The Walking Dead either, as far as the emphasis goes. But, to see how civilization handles this kind of a blow, or handles or does not handle, and to see that it's not just a straight line. Like, I think it's really telling that the power keeps going in and out.
Yes.
It's not a one-time thing and now all your power's gone.
Exactly.
It's going in and out.
Exactly.
So you have hope. So you're up and you're down, you're up, you're down, you have hope, despair. I think it's probably realistic.
Well, sticking with zombies quick, because we got to run. We're actually running late for Fox News. But George Romero has denied, yet again, to direct an episode of The Walking Dead. He said no.
No?
That's too bad. That's too bad, but we're out of here. We got to hit your Fox News. When we come back, Brad Olsen will be joining us. You're not going to want to go anywhere, because this is going to blow your socks off. Be right back right after this.
News Radio, I'm Lisa Brady. The Fed holds the line on interest rates again.
Recent global economic and financial developments are likely to put further downward pressure on inflation in the near term.
And Fed Chief Janet Yellen says they want more improvement in the labor market before making a move. The Dow down 64 points at the close after bouncing up and down since the announcement. A federal judge just approving GM's newly announced deal with the Justice Department to settle criminal charges for delaying the recall of ignition switches with a deadly defect.
And perhaps the worst part of this tragedy is it was entirely avoidable.
Christine Romero, whose agency probes bailout-related crimes, says GM could have reduced the risk by redesigning the faulty part, but didn't because of the cost. As part of the settlement, GM will pay $1.5 billion in fines and civil lawsuits. The debate over Planned Parenthood funding hits the House floor. Fox News Radio's Jared Halpern live on the Hill.
House Republicans are setting up a Friday vote on a bill that would strip federal funding from the nonprofit.
There are more than enough lingering questions to stop the money flow to this abortion giant until investigators are complete.
Tennessee Republican Diane Black referencing a series of undercover videos from an anti-abortion group that claimed to show Planned Parenthood officials selling fetal tissue. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell rejects the idea of linking Planned Parenthood's funding to a short-term spending bill, calling it an exercise in futility that would lead to a government shutdown. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. American Airlines trying to get flights back to normal after a ground stop blamed on a technical glitch at 3 airports in Dallas, Chicago, and Miami. American resolving what it's calling connectivity issues and saying there's no reason to believe that it was related to hacking. You're listening to Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced. A detainee held for more than 13 years at Guantanamo Bay is transferred out, repatriated to Morocco. A task force had recommended him for transfer 5 years ago. White House spokesman Josh Earnest says the president hasn't given up on his original goal to close Gitmo.
We're hopeful that we can finally see some constructive engagement from members of Congress to accomplish a goal the president set out to achieve more than 6 years ago.
115 detainees remain. Several fraternity members from a college in New York make a court appearance connected to a hazing death.
5 members of Pi Delta Psi fraternity appeared in court today to hear charges against them. They and other members are accused of being part of a hazing ritual at a cabin in the Pocono Mountains in 2013. Chun Michael Dang died as a result of the incident. The accused face felony charges of conspiracy and hindering cash capture as well as a misdemeanor charge of hazing. Only one of the 5 today entered a not guilty plea.
Others are to be arraigned in the coming week, some facing charges of murder. Fox Radio's Gernal Scott there. A star of the defending Stanley Cup champions facing a sexual assault allegation, says he's done nothing wrong, looks forward to the season. Chicago Blackhawks forward Patrick Kane at a news conference on the eve of training camp apologizes for causing a distraction, but says he's confident he'll be absolved. He's accused of assaulting a woman last month at his home in upstate New York. The longtime announcer for the Houston Astros has died. Milo Hamilton, a Hall of Fame broadcaster who spent 60 years calling Major League Baseball games, including this historic home run in 1974.
That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
Milo Hamilton was 88. You might remember his catchphrase, Holy Toledo. I'm Lisa Brady on Fox News Radio.
And welcome back to After Hours AM. Or rather, we did. You didn't go anywhere, we did. So we're back, rather. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Along with me is the incomparable Eric Olsen. And tonight, Eric, who do we have on tap?
We have a guy with a very intelligent last name.
I gathered that by how friendly you were about the last name. How you said, oh, gosh, I like that last name.
I'm dancing around. It's not some damn Swede with the O-N. Oh, my God.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Or like the freakish Danes with their S-S-O-N. Where does that nonsense come from? One S is enough.
Yeah,
well,
that is
Brad
true.
Olsen, who is heads up CCC Publishing, and he has the Esoteric series, which began in 2013. He has the award-winning Sacred Places, 108 Destinations travel series. He is all over the map. His latest book is called Future Esoteric, The Unseen Realms, in which he ranges far and wide within those various territories. His parameters are wide. And so we are going to have a fantastic time. He's a writer, he's an author, he's a publisher, and he also puts on, I was trying to find, what is your San Francisco event? That sounded amazing.
Burning
How
Man.
Weird Street Fair.
Yes, I found it. There it is. You are correct, sir. The How Weird Street Fair. So you are a Renaissance man. We welcome you to the show, especially with that last name.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's a real pleasure to be here and talk to you both.
Hey, man, thank you so much for coming on. I got to ask you right away, what makes a nice Midwestern boy like yourself want to jump into these kind of subject matters?
Well, as you guys know, the Midwest is kind of flat, and some say boring.
Oh, yes.
So what do? We look for mountains, and we look up to the sky, and herein lies my quest to figure this stuff out. But now I'm out here just on the edge of the Pacific Ocean in San Francisco, and this is where I run my publishing business, CCC Publishing. And in the springtime, we do a very large 25,000-person event in downtown San Francisco called the How Weird Street Fair. Next year will be our 17th annual.
Damn, man, that you're doing really well for yourself from a Midwestern guy going out to the great state of California and picking up the torch. I read a lot of it's a really deep subject matter, guys. I want everyone to, while we're talking, I want you to either go to Amazon, take a look at the book, of course, to buy it. That is a Future Esoteric. You're going to want to do that. And then also you can go to Brad's website, which is bradolsen.org. Am I correct?
.com.
.com, bradolsen.com. Follow along because we're going to get into some really deep stuff tonight, guys, and you might need a reference source for some of this. Okay, I got to ask you, Brad. Now, do you believe in, and I know you don't call them this, but I call them this, the Illuminati?
Well, it's not even really a matter of belief. It's the facts that they're around, and they do exist. They go by several different names. We call them the Cabal. You could call them even the Bilderberg or some of the elite financial bankers of the world do belong to secret societies, as we know the term. So indeed, they do exist. They may not go by that particular name anymore because it's so loaded. But certainly we have an elite group of very wealthy people that are running the show.
And the reason why I led with that, Brad, was
Yep.
we are facing down the barrel of a presidential election coming here next year.
Yep.
Do we truly choose the president? Or in your mind, in your opinion, is there more at work than what meets the eye with that?
Well, there's absolutely more at work. Look, the candidates who we would like to see rise to the top just seem to get shuffled out to the side, and the establishment candidates such as Bush and Clinton, who I would say certainly have at least ties to what we refer to as the Illuminati, always get the lion's share of publicity and attention when it comes to the media, which is a controlled mass media. It's owned by 4 or 6 conglomerate, very large corporations whose decisions are made behind closed doors. And I have a chapter in Future Esoteric called Media Manipulation, how they pull the strings and make us think the way they want us to think.
And that is so true. And the reason why I brought that up is because why the hell is Donald Trump running other than to be a distraction? I'm seriously, I mean, what are they thinking here? Because they know he's not going to win. I think what it's to do is, I have my own thoughts. I think it's pretty much to give Hillary the election. I mean, that's just my opinion. But, I mean, it just seems so weird this go around. Like, it almost seems obvious that there's different things afoot.
He has such a big ego, and I think that's why he's doing
Well,
it.
exactly. Well, yes, but I was gonna say it just seems really weird. Even a mild-mannered Midwestern guy like myself can pick this up, for crying out loud. That there's really a lot of weird things, and you mentioned media and how it's really there's no independent outlet anymore. Very few, I should say, if any, real good independent media outlets anymore. I mean, everything, like you said, is owned by one of 4 entities.
Yeah.
Why is that? Where did they all go? Did they just get bought out? Were they threatened out of business? What was the deal with the takeovers?
Bought up, gobbled up, and put out of business. Right here in San Francisco, we had one of the greatest independent newspapers in the country called the Bay Guardian. And just last year, without more than 24-hour notice, shuttered the doors, kicked everyone out. In fact, one of the editor-in-chief was Stephen T. Jones. He did a book with CCC Publishing called The Tribes of Burning Man. He was just out on the street. I always said, Steve, you're like the last of a kind. You're the last independent journalist we have. Well, Guardian's gone. He's got another job, and it's not in media anymore. And it's just such a shame to see this happen time and time again. And they're out because they used to criticize the establishment, PG&E, the big corporations, and they ran out of money because those companies are against them, and they have better lawyers in the end to stifle this kind of dissension. And it's really sad to see it happening to such a proud institution as the Guardian.
It is a tragedy. I know Eric, he used to work in media at one time. Eric, what was that like for you working in large media?
Well, I've always been, or almost always been, kind of at arm's length. I've basically usually been a freelancer, so I'm able to kind of pick and choose and come and go. I've had quite an interesting perspective on things in that I've been able to write. I've written for everyone from Playboy to Rolling Stone to the Plain Dealer. I'm in the Cleveland area. I've written for every local publication that has existed here for the last 20 years, and there's been a number that have come and gone. So, I mean, I have never been a quote-unquote employee, and that definitely gives me a very different perspective. It's been interesting to see how much change over the last 10 years, or even more so 5 years, within the media, in particular newspaper. I mean, that entire industry has been turned, it's been flipped on its head. And actually, the Plain Dealer here in Cleveland seems to be kind of coming out of, I mean, it was on the verge of going under. I mean, can you imagine a major metro area like Cleveland not having a daily paper? I mean, it's almost inconceivable. But that almost happened. They were able to rebound. They moved, most of the money-making elements online. They seem to have succeeded in retooling. Of course, they eliminated a huge number of people, downsized the staff, and now it's a much leaner, meaner type approach. There's pluses and minuses to this new approach. There's always things that are gained from efficiency, and of course, there's always things lost.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the real key elements, as Brad was at least implying, and key newspapers, periodicals, publications, but in particular newspapers, they aren't just businesses. They are also keepers of the public trust. And if you don't have the investigative aspects going on, at least in earnest and in genuine, then who's going to do it? Who is going to point out the misdoings of politicians and the powerful? And it really is a tragedy when what we perceive to be kind of alternative publications or whatnot, when they go under, because then you lose that point of view. And having the melting pot of viewpoints is really what has made the U.S. great.
Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't have said it better myself, my friend. I mean, honestly, like this radio show here is an independent radio show. We can say what we feel. We often do. Sometimes we have been chastised by the FCC here and there on this show, but we have weathered that storm. And I have felt the heat every now and again. I've had that weird email or that weird call, especially when we did the Mark Headley show about, for instance, Scientology.
Right.
I had the weird phone call saying, hey, you're getting a little too close. Getting a little too close. And that's kind of where they left it. So I understand that. I understand how things are manipulated and how there's really strings on the puppet. I get that. I really, really do. And it's just a shame, like Brad had said, that things are not independent anymore. It's just horrible, because when independence goes, as far as independent media, the power of the media and the power of the press seems to fade away as well. But that's just my opinion on that.
Brad, I'd love to hear, just kind of for the benefit of the listeners, of course, maybe boil down the essence of what you have found in your various research, and give us kind of a timeline of how that comes together, and perhaps how all these would appear to be, at least on the surface, kind of disparate elements. How do they all tie together, or do they?
Oh, they definitely do. And the tie-in is the word esoteric, which is, by definition, available to a select few. Knowledge that is gained by a private means, sometimes out of the scrutiny of the public. When it becomes common knowledge, it then becomes exoteric. So these subjects are the ones that are shunned. These are the ones that have been shelved by the mainstream media, that very, very little play comes forth from them. And that's what makes them so fascinating to me, and that's what my study is. And there's actually 2 books that are published now. The first in the series, called Modern Esoteric. This one, Future Esoteric, which contains more of the information about UFOs and ETs. So there's a perfect example of subjects that just don't get the light of day.
I was just going to say that, because generally, if it has to do with UFOs, it's the end of the broadcast day, and they say it with a smile on their face. Like, ah, ha, ha, this is so funny. They saw a UFO O'Hare Airport, ha, ha, ha. They never give it the true coverage it deserves.
Never. And there's a reason for that. We've known since Woodward and Bernstein uncovered the story after Watergate that there was a program called Mockingbird, run by the CIA since at least the 1950s. And each one of these large media outlets owned by these 6 giant companies has people on staff who can kill any story, or at least, if it needs to run, say, for example, thousands of people saw a UFO at O'Hare and they have to run something, that they shellac it over with ridicule, denial, or the FUD factor, fear, uncertainty, and doubt surrounding it, just to make people think that, oh, well, we can dismiss this. It's not important.
Yep. And that happens all the time, especially with UFO sightings. I mean, my gosh, I watched on Good Morning America over at O'Hare Airport. I remember the story well. Thousands of people saw this UFO clearly. And they just kind of laughed it off like, oh, isn't that crazy? Isn't that, maybe E.T.'s coming for Reese's Pieces. Exactly that tongue-in-cheek dismissal.
Well, some of it could be cognitive dissonance, that there just is no model in these people's minds to accept that what they're seeing may be something interplanetary. Mm-hmm. But I think more likely they're just given their orders. Let's face it, the real journalism is pretty much dead. You can't get Woodward and Bernstein kind of journalism in the papers anymore, first of all, because papers, as Eric mentioned, like the Plains Dealer, are a mere fraction of what they used to be, and they don't have the money to pay it. Second of all, the demand for this kind of thing has shifted over to the alternative media. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that the internet is the last great hope we have to keep people informed and to try to make things right as far as reporting the story correctly.
I would agree with you, and I've seen you a couple times at Ancient Aliens, and I really enjoyed your spots that you did on there. I thought you were very informative, by the way, Brad.
Thank you.
And we have had a few of the Ancient Aliens people on the show, of course. Mr. Martello was on one time. We talked in depth about Planet X, which is fascinating. But I need you to settle a discussion between me and Eric, in your own opinion. Do you believe, because we just talked about this a couple weeks ago, do you think that we are enjoying alien technology, or do you think it's our own engineering?
Well, I don't want to get in between you two guys.
Well, it's just a long right on air.
Where either one of you stands. So that
I believe, personally, that we are enjoying alien technology.
I would agree with you. I have a chapter in Future Esoteric called Backward Engineering, which details very many type of products and technology that we would take for granted today that can be directly tied into what they discovered post-Roswell, some of the crash debris, and some of the companies that were planted with this information, most notably Bell Laboratories, which got a lot of what would become future computer components, silicon technology, crystal technology, and the list goes on. And even Colonel Corso, in his book The Day After Roswell, listed out dozens of other technologies that have come from ETs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I mean, I do believe that mankind is capable of engineering a lot of great things, but let's just face it, the explosion of technology over the last 30 years has been mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah. And wait till the next 30 years come up. The good stuff is still being sequestered.
Yeah, exactly. It's being held back from us at the moment. And but, you know, that's the thing. I mean, it's almost as if we get little teeny tiny glimpses at the man behind the curtain every now and again. And I think I don't know why they choose as they conspiracy theory kind of thinking, but why do they only choose to let us have little bits here and there? Why can't full disclosure just happen and be done with it?
Well, it won't happen through the U.S. government. They have far too much invested in the secret space program and so many other things that they have spent decades keeping under wraps. I think disclosure will probably come from Russia or China or maybe Japan. Or maybe a mass sighting that just cannot be denied, that millions of people suddenly see things in the skies and they have to discuss it and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, there might be that landing. They might come out of their little spaceship and right on live TV. Okay, guys, can't deny us anymore. Here we are.
Hey, the Pope's coming next week. Maybe we'll see some activity in the skies over Philadelphia.
You just never know. Would that surprise me? Absolutely not.
Well, I published a book just last year called The Last Pope by Leo Lion-Zagami, and he's all over InfoWars this week. They're running all his stuff on the Pope's visit. And he has some very interesting information in this book about how the Pope is going to propose a one-world religion. And in fact,
heard
he's
that.
already made mention of doing that in his trip next week. So your listeners need to keep an eye out for that. Because
exactly, because the Vatican II. And they never mention the Vatican II, do they?
No, they don't. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we hardly get any of the information that is occurring in Rome. I mean, the pedophilia scandal is front page news in Rome, implicating many of the bishops and priests that come out of the Vatican, and these prostitutes basically that get taken into Vatican City. That is all filtered out. We get none of that. But Leo Zagami, he's right there in Rome. He's collecting it all and proposing that what this all means, this whole one world religion thing, is going to be the rollout of introducing ET species with Earth. And they're part of this one world religion. They've already come out and said, Pope says, well, if there are ETs, though, we can still baptize them. It's like this desperate plea to say, well, we're still relevant in the light of ET's coming to Earth. Don't discount the Catholic religion. We're still going to be here, and we'll still do our thing. But this is the machinations behind the scene that we're about to see this great rollout by the Pope himself within a week, proposing a one-world religion. Yeah, and the Vatican II, which is being built in Rome, which has the diplomatic immunity of the Vatican City. They're building a whole new temple that not many people know about, but Leo has exposed in his book, The Last Pope, including photos of what it's going to look like. There are some schematics that are available for the public to see.
And where is that located now? It's in Europe somewhere, isn't it? I forget exactly the location.
Oh, it's in Rome.
It is in Rome. Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was in Eastern Europe. I must have had some bad info. But, that's why. And you never hear, and one of my colleagues and I were talking, he says, you never hear about. Only in passing once in a while is Vatican II. Why is that? What is so fearful? And it made me think, exactly why are they hiding the Vatican II? If they have anything to fear, now that you mention that, it really ties it all together. It's a rollout for something bigger coming down the pipe.
Absolutely. And they know it all. They're ready to go with it, but they have to do it step by step. I think what you're thinking of is the one world religion city called Ashtana.
That's what it is.
In Kazakhstan, how do you pronounce it? Kazakhstan, that's it.
Now, what is the actual meaning of a one world religion? I'm unclear as to what you mean exactly. Please just tell me that and then continue on.
Yeah, well, I think the Pope is going to articulate what that means next week. And there are rumors that he's actually going to have a Muslim imam with him when they do like this world prayer. So basically, what I take out of Leo's book and my whole thought about what they're doing here is they're getting us prepared to not only continue to think that they're relevant in light of the fact that we're going to have some public displays from ETs here in the near future that they cannot deny. And they've already made enough mention that the astronomer of the Vatican saying that that ETs have been spotted, and they have this big telescope. It's the strangest name, Lucifer. They gave the name to look for ET. So they know it's going to happen, and they have to stay relevant. So the one world religion is this rollout that we're all one. That it's kind of tied into the New World Order very closely, in fact. And what they want to do is to propose to the world that all religions are one, that there's just one God, we're all monotheistic, and it could also incorporate ETs.
But what about the backlash from the world's population? What makes them so arrogant to think we're all just going to say, okay, sounds good to me? I mean, isn't there be some backlash? I mean,
well, sure.
You know?
Think about what would happen if they don't. They're suddenly completely irrelevant. Well, you guys got it wrong. First of all, way back in Galileo's time, he went into house arrest because he said the crazy proposition that the Earth revolved around the sun.
So true. It's desperation at this point, like you said, to remain relevant.
Yes. So that's what it's all about, and that's the rollout.
Yeah.
To stay relevant and keep their wealth and keep their faithful in line, because these are mind-blowing revelations. I mean, this is nothing short of Galileo saying, here, look through my telescope. I'll prove to you that the Earth revolves around the sun. None of them would do it. They wouldn't even look.
No, he was a heretic after that. Oh, my God, you're wrong. No way. Exactly. It'll be interesting, like you said, for this rollout. We got to roll over to break. When we come back, are there still Nazis out there? And are they in America? Did Hitler die during World War II? We're going to ask those questions to Brad right after this.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette from Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the Wacky Waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the Wacky Waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to Geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
I heard on the news about that 5-year-old who found his uncle's gun. The kid didn't know it was loaded.
I heard on the news about that 14-year-old girl who was bullied online. For like a year, she couldn't take it anymore, so she got her dad's gun from his nightstand.
I heard on the news about that guy who broke into someone's house, stole a gun from the hall closet.
He accidentally shot his cousin in the head.
She killed herself.
And later, killed the owner of the store he was trying to rob.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com.
After Hours AM, everybody. That's right. We are blowing the lid off a lot of things tonight with our guest, Brad Olsen. Not to be confused with our very own Eric Olsen, but the spelling is the same. They may be related. Who knows? But when we were leaving, I did promise we would talk about this. I did get an email from Michael. Michael is from California. He says, from my understanding, Hitler survived World War II and lived a full life in South America. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, there is quite a bit of truth to that. I have a chapter in Future Esoteric called The Fourth Reich in America. And leading up to that, as we were talking to the break, Martin Bormann, who was the money man of the Third Reich, he was tried in absenteeism at the Nuremberg trials and was given the penalty of death. Well, he never was caught. He did surface a few times, and there's photos of him in South America. And all the wealth of the Nazis they looted from all the other European countries when they were under their control went missing, including many priceless paintings which have never been seen again. Where did all this money go, especially gold? And the question is about Adolf Hitler. Well, 2 or 3 years ago, the FBI decided that they're going to start dumping all this information, much of it pertaining to UFOs, but also to the Fourth Reich. And there was a classified document on the FBI.gov website, which is still available to see, that Hitler survived. He was split Berlin 2 weeks before his fake suicide on one of the Nazi submarines that were called the Führer Wolf submarines, the large ones. And in fact, the Nazis were very interested in Antarctica and had a base down there called Base 322, something like that. And it was in this area called New Schwabenland. And it was under the ice at this place where the Nazis found some hot springs called the Schumacher Ponds. And they were able to get their U-boat submarines under the ice to this location. And the admiral of the Nazi Navy, his name is Dolitz, he made a comment, I think it was in 1942, that we have built an impregnable fortress for our Fuhrer. And they had all intention of keeping the Fourth Reich going. Win or lose the war, they were going to go on. Bormann, the money man, escaped, potentially with all this wealth. And interestingly, I was just watching some stuff about MK Ultra on Long Island. These Nazi doctors that came over through Project Paperclip were being funded with gold. And they had no idea where this gold was coming from. But they had all the money in the world to carry on these projects in the whole Montauk base there, where they're doing these things after the Brookings Institute cut them off. Said, we can't fund these kind of things. It's getting too much out in the open.
Didn't they ever wonder why the bullion had swastikas on it?
You'd think that would raise some eyebrows, but maybe they melted it down and put another logo. But just to finish with Hitler, there are actually some photos that have surfaced in the last few years that look remarkably similar to what an aged Adolf Hitler would look like. Of course, he shaved the mustache and started going bald. Mm-hmm. But apparently he lived till 1960 and died in one of their U-boat submarine bases in Argentina.
Wow. Man, that makes total sense, though. I mean, he could have easily had a stand-in to take the bullet literally for him and fled. I mean, I could totally see that happening. Easily happen. And another email here that I think, this is from Bradley, and Bradley says, you were Bradley. He says, I'm a big fan of Brad Olsen's work. I've read most of his books, and I love especially when he talks about false flags attack. Now, does Brad think that false flag attacks are on the rise rather than decline, and will it crescendo with our gun rights being taken away?
Well, that's the ultimate goal, Bradley, and you nailed it on the head. They're certainly on the rise. Every time you see a politician get on right after one of these shootings, it's probably a hoax. Sandy Hook was a hoax. The Boston bombing was a hoax. Some of these new ones that have popped up with the guy shooting those two media personalities was a hoax. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just goes on. Charlie Hebdo was for a different reason in France. But every one of these, you can really figure out who's doing it because you'll see how much media attention they get and what the motive is. And if President Obama comes on and says, well, here's another attack and we got to get rid of the guns, boom, it's a falsie.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that. I'm starting to notice a rhythm here. They need to have an attack, of course, before they can start talking about gun control again. They have to have something out there to make into the monster. They just can't bring it up in casual conversation. Hey, by the way, we're going to take everyone's guns away. They got to have some type of dramatic, horrible thing happen, but it never. I like to think that day will never come, that we will be disarmed, because quite honestly, that's what keeps us free from a lot of other countries. I mean, if you invaded America, A, because geography says we'd be horrible to invade, but B, do you really want to face about 100 million pissed off gun owners? If you're a foreign army? I mean, you would think that they'd want us to have firearms.
Right. Well, just remember that we are protected with the Constitution and the Second Amendment with the right to bear arms. And just remember that all personnel who go into the military make a pledge to uphold the Constitution, and that's against foreign or domestic enemies. Mm-hmm. So in the case of these false flag operations, this is clearly a domestic enemy. Look, we know 9/11 was an inside job. That's the mother of all false flags. These people who perpetrated 9/11 have still not been prosecuted. They're still out there. They're still in power. They're still doing this kind of stuff. So just keep that in mind, that until the day we see the mass arrests, the Bushes, the Kissingers, the Rockefellers of the world, the Rothschilds, even though they're all hunkered down in their bunkers by now, I'm sure, we're still not free of that scourge of this earth. And that's what the Founding Fathers meant by domestic terror, domestic enemies.
I have one more email for you, and this one is a humdinger. This one comes from Catherine, and she's writing us from Scottsdale, Arizona. Brad, I have to tell you, about 4 months ago I saw a UFO. This is her speaking. And not long after that, I witnessed two gentlemen with black suits on, the normal men in black. But when approached in my small town, they somehow just disappeared. Are men in black real, or was I just imagining things?
Oh, great question. I have a chapter in Future Esoteric called Men in Black, and it does appear that they are very much real. How they're able to get to UFO witnesses, sometimes before the witness even calls anybody or even talks to anybody, and these figures will show up, and they're very intimidating, and they'll not directly threaten the person, but it's implied. They have telepathic abilities, and they may not even be human. I'd say watch your step if they do confront you.
I was going to say, a lot of people that I have talked to over the years that have actually allegedly seen a man in black, they always report them as being odd. A lot of them have different skin tones than what they've ever seen. I believe that they're probably part of the UFO system themselves.
Well, it's really important to distinguish different kind of ETs. And we're not really talking about how tall they are, how small they are, how big their eyes are, what color their skin is. It's what is their intention. And there are two kinds. There's service to self and service to others. Clearly, we want to be allied with the service to others, who are the benevolent ETs who have probably prevented us from blowing this planet up multiple times with all these exotic weapons that we now have. But it's the service to self ETs that have an agenda and have been on this planet for quite a long time. And my theory on the Men in Black is that they're actually hybrids, that they have been cloned in laboratories deep underground. I have a chapter in Future Esoteric called The Underground Bases, including a lot of information that Phil Schneider, who's brutally murdered for disclosing a lot of this stuff, talks about how these entities are being cloned between the gray aliens and human DNA. And this is really what brings all the abduction and cattle mutilation accounts together, that they're operating in a way to create this new superhuman, like Human 2.0. And I'm actually working on the third book in the Esoteric series, and a lot of the new information that I'm coming up with and bringing out, which I find so fascinating and very important to tell people about, is this transhumanism, that we are splitting into two type of humans right now as we speak. There will be Homo sapiens that'll go in one way and stay on the surface, and then there's another type that is being cloned, which is going to become Homo evolutionis.
Interesting.
Okay? And these will become the tall grays of the future. Now, this is when it gets really weird, but I think you guys can handle this. What if some of the ETs that have been infiltrating humanity and getting into certain things, including the military-industrial complex, are actually time travelers who have come here to assure that we stay on certain timelines so they will exist? This is Dan Burrish in some of his research with the Ebens, is what he called them.
I've read that work. I've read about the time travelers, and that would make a lot of sense to keep us on that path and not let us wane. Because if we wane,
their entire existence depends on it.
Yeah, if we go left or if we go right, they don't matter anymore.
Right.
And so they have to make sure we hit that bullseye.
So this ET species called the tall grays, which are distinguished from the tiny little grays, which are very much synthetic test tube, not born from a mother at all. But the tall grays are Homo evolutionists in the future who have come back to assure that we stay on this timeline so they will even exist. So it's really kind of futile to try to think, well, how can we get rid of these guys? Maybe we don't want to get rid of these guys. Maybe we have to somehow come to terms with these guys. And I'm sure they'd have a lot to tell us and teach us. And some of them have actually been said to be compassionate. I mean, we're talking highly intelligent in ways that is really hard to even imagine. Telepathy is the mode of communication. The ability to phase in and out of our reality. So they have fourth dimensional capabilities. And I have a chapter in Future Esoteric called Superhuman Abilities. And those traits that can be tied into some of these advanced ETs are inherent in ourselves.
Exactly. Go ahead, sir.
Well, if we were able to activate our pineal gland, which in almost every case of humans is turned off, we could become fourth dimensional, astral traveling, telekinesis, spoon bending, telepathic, superhuman capacities. But
how was it turned on?
This is the kind of information we're not being taught or given by the powers that be.
Sure. My question, though, is how did that get turned off in the first place?
Well, this could go back to how we have been under the control of malevolent ETs for thousands of years. And they've been existing underground. You know, I grew up an atheist. My parents turned away from religion. They said, we're not going to teach you guys anything. And my brother, sister, and I, we just kind of all went our own ways and figured it out the way you're meant to figure it out, just like a blank chalkboard, and just write it on there as you figure it out. Well, of course, my path was to think about extraterrestrial life, how it may be interacting with Earth, and how we've been influenced by these guys for so long. And my conclusion and the research I've done is that these Draco reptilian ETs have been here for thousands of years. And the reason I bring up the atheist part is because all this time I've totally denied the existence of devil or Satan or Lucifer or even these Draco ETs, which are, by the way, all very similar in appearance and ability. Well, working on this book, Future Esoteric, I've changed my tune a bit. And in the conclusion, I propose that they are all one and the same. Now, look, what if you and me and Eric were invited to an Illuminati ritual?
Oh, I go.
We're all kind of nudging each other like, yeah, right. What are we going to see here? Well, let's say we're in there and they're doing the candles, the incense, the chanting, and everybody's really serious. There's some guy in the middle with a pentagram, and he's summoning some demons, and we're still really skeptical. Yeah, right. What if something appeared? What if something physically manifested right before our eyes? Do you think you and I might change our tune?
I would. I would be like, hey, that's a great trick, and look at the nasty demon you just made, huh? But I'm going to take a really hard left turn on you for a second. We've had past guests that attribute all this to the jinn. And I know that's not your area of expertise, but I'm sure you have.
It is.
No, are they on the right track? Is the jinn to blame?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because jinn are the archons. This is what I get into in the other book, Modern Esoteric, and we may have to, I know we're running out of time, do another interview and talk about that, because this Modern Esoteric goes all the way back. That's the beginning of humanity and antediluvian civilization, and also looking into the Jinn, which are this archon network, which the Greys and the Dracos are part of. And this is what controls humans in such a way that we're always fearful, or we're quick to become angry, and all these things that are provoked by the Jinn, aka the archons. And this is what we have to break away from. And when we do, when we finally can, this is going to usher in the golden age of humanity.
I would agree. I would agree, but I do believe, and I do agree with you about dimensions as well. Now, dimensions play a big part, because I believe that, like, when we nuked Hiroshima, did that not seep into other dimensions and threaten them in some ways because of the frequencies?
Absolutely, and it goes before Hiroshima. It goes to White Sands, where they were doing the first atomic tests. The first atomic bomb that went off was like an alarm clock throughout the universe, or throughout the dimensions around us. And it was like, hey, wake up. Humans have the bomb. We got to start watching them. So the real UFO phenomenon did not start with Roswell or Kenneth Arnold in 1947. It really began with the Foo Fighters, for one, when we were fighting World War II, but the atomic testing at White Sands, New Mexico.
You know, I often thought that, because years ago I interviewed somebody that was a Tuskegee Airman, and off air he was telling me that he would be flying these flights. I mean, these fighter bombing runs and stuff, and he would talk about these strange, just odd crafts coming out of nowhere, seemingly nowhere. There 1 minute, gone the next. But of course, back in those days, you didn't say a word. But he always thought, in his own mind, they were keeping tabs on us. They were seeing what kind of firepower we were producing at that time.
Yeah, that would correspond perfectly with what happened in the timeline as far as UFO sightings and them watching us, especially at nuclear test facilities, or UFOs that flew over silos, Cold War era nuclear bomb silos up in North Dakota, and would just shut them down. Like, it would just power down these top secret silos, and nobody could figure out how they did it. Well, they're sending us a message that will not be tolerated. We cannot go into full-scale thermonuclear war.
No, because there's just too much at stake. There's other dimensions at stake with it as well.
That's right.
You know, and I know lately I've had a lot of people talk about Area 51. I personally don't believe Area 51 has any aliens at it. I think what it is it's a sham job. It's that whole left-right hand. You know what? We'll let you watch the right hand, where the left hand really does the dirty work.
You could have a point there. And supposedly all the top-secret stuff moved to Utah. As a Dugway is the new Area 51 anyway. So you're right. Look over here while we're doing stuff over there.
Exactly, and that makes total sense. I'd do the same thing. I'd laugh at you. Hey, jerkwads. Yeah, keep looking at me.
Brad, I am assimilating all of this. It's a lot of mind-boggling stuff, and I'm trying to kind of place it within my mind. I suppose, to a certain extent, plagued with a need to put all of these things in some sort of category and to make it all come together. My question, because we're running out of time here, and actually you've ended up kind of answering my question of long ago as we circled around, because you've touched on so many different topics. But being that essentially all of this information, or at least the interpretation of it, is so counter to what we are generally taught and told and what is reported. Where, and if you can give even just one specific example, I think would be very illustrative. Where do you get all of this information? Where is this coming from? Where do these facts come from that are so counter to what most of us have been taught and our worldviews?
Well, I have a resource section at the back of all my books where each chapter gets broken down into a dozen or more topics that I've used to put all this stuff together. But I'm just a voracious reader. I'm online all the time reading stuff. And basically, look, I wasn't alive when Roswell happened, so how could I know that? I don't have any firsthand information. So basically what I do is collect data points. And using the example of Roswell, there's some data points that the government says it was just a weather balloon and the aliens were actually just crash test dummies. Okay, well, that's one data point, not really supported by all the rest, including the witnesses who were alive that were there. And those data points suggest that it was a crashed UFO, and there were aliens that were recovered, including one that was still alive. On the other end of the spectrum is my good friend Joseph Farrell, who came out with a book that suggested it was a Nazi UFO. But again, that's just one data point, and frankly, I would go with the conglomerate. It's like a bell curve. So when you have the majority of data points right there in the middle of the bell curve, that's what I write about. That's what I am proposing is the correct view of something like Roswell.
So
Does that
it's
answer your
kind of
question?
the majority. You're taking the majority. You're literally graphing it. That's interesting.
Correct. Yes. Using data points and looking at it from every possible angle. Look, I have no vested interest in any of this stuff, and being an independent publisher, probably one of the last. My whole goal is integrity and is in truth and is just putting things out there as honestly as I can, because I have no motive to trick anyone or to make anything up or to do anything but to just try to help people understand this as best they can. And they're very complicated subjects, as you know.
Well, yeah, 1 hour is not doing this subject matter justice. We're going to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because quite honestly, we're just touching that surface because there's a whole lot to talk about, including more UFO stuff that we didn't even think about yet. It just seems to get weirder and weirder by the day, though. A lot of things that we would have poo-pooed 5 years ago are now actually coming to light in national media, like Vatican II, like getting ready to roll out the whole one world religion. All these things are starting to unravel and unfold, but I have to harken back to Revelations. It kind of is eerie how it's paralleling. It really is. Really eerie.
Yep. And at that point, these subjects are no longer esoteric. When they go above ground, for example, like when Edward Snowden came out with all the NSA revelations, now it is exoteric knowledge. We know they're snooping on us.
Yes.
But when I was working on Future Esoteric in 2012, I was putting this stuff out there that they had these technologies to spy on us that come right out of the book 1984.
Yes, yes.
Big Brother is watching us in all these different ways, including when our smartphones are turned off. They're still on.
Exactly. It could still hear you. There's so many sensors we don't even know about on an iPhone.
Yeah.
It's unreal. If people knew half the stuff that's watching them, they would not even want to buy this stuff. You know, just because really it's a giant babysitter is what it is. Is really at the end of the day. But Brad, why don't you tell everyone get your book, how they can visit you, how they can get a hold of you, all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, sure. Well, you guys mentioned BradOlsen.com if you want to learn more about what I do, the How Weird Street Fair, the books, the other authors. You can go to cccpublishing.com. That's our company website. Anytime you order a book off of CCC Publishing, if they're one of my own, it's the only opportunity I have to sign books for people. So I'd recommend that they go to CCC Publishing. You can find ways to get in touch with me if you want to. Either of those websites have contact information. I have the Esoteric Series YouTube channel and several personas on Facebook.
Cool, man. Cool. And any parting words to the would-be person that's looking just like you are at the what's really out there?
Yeah, just keep an open mind on this stuff, because oftentimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
Isn't that the truth?
We're right on the cusp of some big news coming up.
When it breaks to one world government or the one world religion, we're going to have you back on. We're going to have you back on the show.
As soon as next week.
Well, then we'll be talking to you soon. But on behalf of myself, Joel Sturgis, and Eric Olsen, we would like to thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. Keep loving each other, take care of each other, and beware of Big Brother. Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. Please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.